Hello, I'm Dallas Johnson with Dealer Training. Thank you very much for watching this video. I want to give you a quick explanation of the differences between a retail dealer license, a wholesale dealer license, and a broker license. So first off, you will need to check with your state laws because all 50 states have different dealer laws. And if it's helpful when you're getting started, just go to dealerslicense.com. Once again, that is dealerslicense.com, and click on the Get License link to find out how to get a dealer's license in your state, or you can even Google your state dealer license office. For example, you might Google North Carolina dealer license office or Colorado dealer licensing section. A lot of states refer to their dealer license office as the dealer licensing section or the dealer licensing bureau. So you can just Google that and find out which of these licenses are allowed in your state. Before obtaining any of these three licenses that we're getting ready to discuss, you're going to need to know that there are several differences between these different types of licenses. And, there are some states that have some of these licenses and some do not. But it's imperative to know that your state will either fine you, suspend your license temporarily, or possibly even revoke your dealer's license if you don't follow every rule and guideline. If you get a fine or a license suspension, you have basically become a blip on the radar for your state dealer licensing office. In other words, they're going to be keeping an eye on you after that. So you are much more likely to be spotted for any type of violations of state law after you become a blip on the radar in the first place. One of the best bits of advice I can give you is that you want to fly under the radar. You do not want to become the blip on the radar in your state dealer license office. In fact, it would be best if your state dealer license office never even hears your dealership name from an unhappy customer. You do not want customers complaining to your state dealer license office, and you do not want to bring attention to your dealership by breaking state laws. Do your best to maintain compliance, and obviously compliance is following every state law, rule, and guideline. We are a tightly regulated industry because we are a high profit industry that has seen a lot of fraud in the past and even currently as well. A few folks have gotten dealer's licenses to run criminal enterprises. So now the laws have been tightened for us, the ethical dealers that are running a legitimate business. So first, let's talk about these licenses. We're going to talk about retail license versus wholesale license versus broker's license. Let's start with a wholesale license. A wholesale license allows you to get into dealer auctions, but you cannot sell to the general public. Many of you want to get a dealer's license for the sole intent of getting into dealer auctions so you can buy vehicles wholesale, and this license allows you to get into dealer auctions, but you can only sell to other licensed dealers. Now, I see ads all the time for companies that will help you get a wholesale dealer license in their state that allows you one or two dealer plates and does get you into dealer auctions. Now, I'm not slamming this process at all, but I have received calls from all over the country from law enforcement officers that want to know why someone in Texas has Idaho dealer license plates. I've gotten calls from Ohio law enforcement officers wanting to know why a person in Ohio is operating with a Wisconsin dealer license plate. When you have a vehicle with a dealer license plate that comes from a state that does not border your state, you bring a lot of attention to yourself from local law enforcement officials. And I'm not saying this is illegal by any means, but many states allow law enforcement to pull you over when you're driving a vehicle with a dealer plate, even if it is a dealer plate from the state the law enforcement official resides, So if they can pull you over in your own state with your own dealer license plate, they will certainly pull you over when you're operating with an out-of-state dealer license plate, especially one from another part of the country. I also know that state highway patrols routinely pull over vehicles with out-of-state dealer plates that are traveling through their state on major interstates. So, for example, if you're driving through Kansas on I-70 with a California dealer plate or a Massachusetts dealer plate, you're going to get pulled over. Now, as I stated before, this is not illegal, but if they pull you over, hopefully you have bought that vehicle at an out-of-state dealer auction or delivering it to your dealership or vice versa. I've actually seen several states change their laws so a company cannot come into that state, rent a building with several offices, and rent wholesale licenses to out-of-state residents. Now, I've seen Illinois, Missouri, Washington, Texas, Ohio, Oregon, and many other states actually change their laws to specifically prevent companies from obtaining wholesale dealer's licenses for out-of-state residents. And if you are currently holding a wholesale license from another state that you do not live in, be sure to follow that state's bills that are being introduced in the state's legislature, because it is a nationwide trend to ensure that if you hold a dealer's license in a specific state, you must be a resident of that state. That is certainly the trend nationwide. For a while, the state of Washington actually outlawed wholesale licenses, which put all the legitimate wholesale licenses out of business because one or two companies came in and were renting wholesale licenses to residents from all over the country that didn't live in Washington. So they really eliminated the whole wholesale licensing business for a couple of years. They did revise that law later and allow someone with a Washington driver's license to hold a Washington dealer's license, but it no longer allows out-of-state residents to hold a license in that state. In Ohio, a company was renting 50 dealer licenses to out-of-state residents when the state law only allows 2 licenses in one building, and the out-of-state dealer license company was required to shut down. There was one company from Indiana that was renting a huge location in Missouri with about 250 licenses and was actually shut down by the state of Missouri. Now, if you want to use one of these companies to obtain an out-of-state dealer license, in fact, I think that you can do that in Idaho, and Wisconsin are one of the handful of states that allow out-of-state residents to hold a wholesale license. But you want to watch those bills and those legislatures for those states because the trend nationwide is not to allow an out-of-state resident to come in and get a wholesale license in that specific state. If you do know what other states currently allow out-of-state residents to hold a wholesale license, I would like to ask you to please leave those states in the comments below so I can do some research on that as well. So you can obtain an out-of-state wholesale license, but there certainly are going to be limited on what you can do with that. Or you can actually obtain your own wholesale license in the state that you live in. Some states allow you to have a dealer's license at your home. Most states, however, require wholesale license holders to meet local zoning laws, and many zoning laws do not allow you to hold a wholesale or a retail license at a residential address. So you must ensure that you are meeting your local zoning laws. And it's pretty easy to find out your local zoning laws. You can just call your city hall, your county courthouse, and ask for planning and zoning, or you can ask for the office that handles zoning, and you can give them the address of the location that you want to have your dealer's license located at, and they will say that you can either have a license at that location or you absolutely may not have a license at that location because it's not zoned correctly. So you must be zoned correctly regardless of which type of license that you are obtaining. Many state laws strictly prohibit any type of dealer license to be held at a residence, but some states that do allow a dealer license to be held at a residence will require that the license be held in a building that is separate from the actual residence itself. Now, if you do obtain a wholesale license, you can gain access to dealer auctions, but as I stated earlier, you may only sell vehicles to other licensed dealers. If you hold a wholesale license and sell a vehicle to a person that does not have a dealer's license, you will probably get your dealer's license either suspended or possibly revoked permanently, and at minimum, you will receive a substantial state fine. States are very stringent about this. Wholesale dealers may never sell vehicles to someone without a dealer's license, including family members. And I've gotten calls from persons that say they want to get a dealer's license just to sell vehicles to their immediate family members, which is never allowed with a wholesale license. I've also talked to several persons that want to get a wholesale license to get into dealer auctions to buy vehicles at wholesale and sell them to businesses that they own. For example, I talked to a person that owned a large landscaping company and wanted to buy trucks at dealer auctions so he could sell them to his own business. Many states have laws that specifically prohibit selling yourself a vehicle with a wholesale dealer license. So you should definitely check your own state laws on this. And by any means, I am not knocking wholesale licenses at all, but they do have limitations. There are dealers that make a great living with wholesale licenses, but they're not as nearly as many wholesale dealers that are making a great living as the multitude of retail dealers that are making a great amount of money. In the wholesale side of the business, you have to develop long-term relationships like with franchise dealers that are selling brand new vehicles in many cases. And in the past, when a franchise dealer took a trade-in, they would sell that vehicle to wholesalers. And this is not nearly as common as it once was because franchisors are aggressively selling trade-ins now instead of selling them to wholesalers. And the franchisors are advertising to actually buy vehicles directly from individuals. So, how many times have you heard those ads, we'll buy from you even if you don't buy from us? Franchisors are not selling their vehicles to wholesalers like they used to. In fact, vehicles they are selling to wholesalers are usually trade-ins that can sometimes be in horrendous condition, which they don't want to sell on their lot. So, just do keep that in mind. I also know an incentive to get a wholesale license is to buy vehicles at dealer auctions and sell them to other dealers. And I really want you to think about this scenario for a moment. When you get into dealer auctions, you're going to quickly learn that wholesale dealers auctions accurately track their sales data, and they give that sales data to all licensed motor vehicle dealers. For example, Manheim is the largest dealer auction company in the world, and they use a program called Manheim Market Report, or MMR. And this is a free program available to all licensed dealers to show the exact wholesale selling prices of vehicles after every single auction. What I'm getting at, if you think that you're going to go to buy vehicles at a dealer auction, mark them up, and then sell them to other licensed dealers, you might want to think again. Think about this. Let's say you buy a 2010 Chevy Cavalier for $4,000 and you mark it up to $4,500. And by the way, the markup on wholesale is much, much lower than retail. For example, if I buy a vehicle at a dealer auction for $4,000, I guarantee you I'm going to be marking it up to $3,000 to $4,000 on the retail lot. But we'll talk about those retail markups here in just a moment. So let's say you buy that vehicle at a dealer auction for $4,000 and you mark it up to $4,500, then you just sell to another dealer. The first thing you're going to have to do is market it to other wholesale dealers. So you're going to have to reach out and get that vehicle's information to other dealers, and you're going to have to think about how you're going to do that. And more importantly, why is that other dealer going to pay you more for a vehicle that they can buy at the same wholesale price next week at that same dealer auction? I mean, think about this. A licensed motor vehicle dealer is going to have that MMR. They're going to know wholesale pricing, and they're going to know exactly what you paid for that vehicle at last week's dealer auction. Why are they going to pay you a marked up price when they can just buy that same vehicle for the price you paid at next week's dealer auctions? This is something you really want to think about. This process is not a blueprint for success. Although obtaining a wholesale license may sound attractive and you think that you are going to be buying vehicles at wholesale and selling them above wholesale prices to other dealers, you might really think about this. Now, if you say, for example, having access to an unlimited supply of vehicles that no one else has access to and want to sell these acquired vehicles through dealer auctions, now that could be quite profitable, but I do not see that being the norm. The biggest advantage to having a wholesale license is that you are not required to have a display lot. I want you to be aware, however, there are a couple of states that do require wholesale dealers to have a lot, and I'm only aware of a couple of states that require wholesale dealers to have a lot, but that's not the norm as well. The norm is to ensure that you do not have to have a lot when you have a wholesale license. So maybe a wholesale license is for you, or maybe it is not. Now let's talk about a retail license. The greatest thing about obtaining a retail license is you can sell vehicles to absolutely anyone. You can sell vehicles to other dealers. You can sell vehicles to the general public. You can sell vehicles to family members. And most states will allow you to buy a vehicle at a dealer auction and keep it as your personal vehicle. You'll just need to pay your state sales tax if you want to keep that vehicle. But the great thing about this is that you will save on sales tax as well, because you will normally pay sales tax only based on the dealer auction purchase price, which will be thousands less than retail. So you will pay less on your sales tax as well when you have a retail license and you're buying vehicles at dealer auctions to sell to yourself. I want you to be aware there are a couple of states that do require licensed dealers to buy personal vehicles at dealer auctions, but must pay sales tax based on the market price as per Blue Book or NADA, but that's not the norm as well. So you want to definitely check with your state law. No matter what state you're obtaining your license in, you will need to have a display lot or a display area if you have a retail license. Each state has minimum size requirements for the display lot for retail dealers. Many states will allow you to have one space. Several states require you to have 5 spaces. A couple states require you to have 10 spaces. And I do know of at least one state that requires dealers to have room for 22 vehicles, but I think that's about the largest in the country. The norm seems to be about 2 to 5 spaces for most states. Most state laws will require that you have room for the type of vehicle that you're licensed to sell. So, for example, if you are only selling motorcycles, your spaces must be large enough to sell motorcycles. If you're selling motor vehicles, the spaces in your lot must be large enough to sell motor vehicles. If you're selling RVs or semi-trucks, your spaces must be able to hold RVs or semi-trucks. Some states specifically require your display lot to be on the exterior of the building. States that do require you to have an exterior display lot will normally allow the vehicles to be stored inside of a building, but they will still require a lot to be on the exterior of the building. Most states will allow the lot to be on the exterior or the interior of the building, or a combination of both. Most states also require the display lot to either be the same address of the building, or some states will allow a display lot that is adjacent to the building, like a building, the lot can be next door. But I'm not aware of any state that allows the lot to be located across the street from the building. Many states will allow a storage lot that is not adjacent to the building, but these states require the dealer to register the storage lot. And to my knowledge, all the states that allow a storage lot do not allow any type of sales activity on a storage lot. So if you have a customer that wants to see a specific vehicle that's on your storage lot, you or an employee would need to bring that vehicle back to your licensed location to have sales activity. You could not just show the vehicle on the storage lot. Be sure to check with your state laws on storage lot requirements. Some states will allow you to have a dealer's license at your home, but like I said, this is not the norm. And the handful of states that do allow you to have a dealer's license at your home require that you do meet local zoning. So if you live in a city, your city will probably not allow you to have a lot, a sign, and allow significant foot traffic to your home. Some states that do allow you to have a dealer's license at your home will require specifically that the license be located in a building that's not the residence. So you would have to have a separate building, like an outbuilding, for that to work for you. And this might work if you're in a rural area or if you live in an area that does not have any zoning laws. If you are in a city or even many counties, you will not be allowed to have a license at your home unless you live in, say, for example, some type of commercial type of area. No matter what, you will need to meet local zoning laws. Your license location has to be zoned to have a dealer's license. Now, I'm a big believer that a retail license is the way to go, and I will always recommend obtaining a retail license over a wholesale license. With a wholesale license, you can only sell vehicles to other dealers, which really limits your market. And as I stated earlier, if you think you're going to buy vehicles at dealer auctions, mark them up, and sell them to other dealers, you might need to think of that again, because dealers are smart. And they know wholesale prices, and you will have to somehow convince them to buy from you at a markup instead of buying that same vehicle for the same price you paid directly from the dealer auction the following week. Now, as I stated, there are wholesale dealers that make a lot of money, but most of them have long-term relationships with franchise dealers, and many franchise dealers are no longer selling their trade-ins to wholesalers. They're selling their vehicles and their trade-ins right there on their own lot. With a retail license, the world is literally your market. Anyone that can drive a vehicle is a potential customer, whether that customer is driving by your lot and sees a vehicle, stops in and purchases it, or maybe you have someone that lives several hundreds of miles away that found your vehicle on the internet and that's exactly the vehicle they want. Or maybe you'll explore the lucrative world of vehicle exports where you sell vehicles to people in all other countries. And there's always a vehicle shortage somewhere in the world. I've seen many years. I've seen so many vehicle shortage, specific types of vehicles that are needed in specific countries. And that's a market that you can really capitalize on with the retail license. Now, if you have a wholesale license, you cannot sell vehicles to people in other countries unless they have a dealer's license as well. And I know a lot of wholesalers that have sold vehicles to individuals in other countries, and they always get caught and they get their licenses revoked with substantial fines. So I do want you to be aware of that. If you got a wholesale license, you can only sell to other licensed dealers, whether they're in the United States or out of the United States. Now, I speak to potential entrepreneurs all the time that state they do not want to go to the expense of finding a lot in order to obtain a retail license. Having a dealer's license is truly the world's greatest business. And when you see what vehicles are selling for at a dealer auction and what you can sell them for on the lot, I think you're going to wish you had obtained your license many years ago. My philosophy has always been to buy a vehicle at a dealer auction and normally mark it up by about $3,500 to $4,000 over wholesale, then be ready to negotiate aggressively. However, you will be amazed at the number of people that will actually write you a check for your full asking price without negotiating. And that is not the norm, but those customers are out there. And I've also found a major negotiating starting point for many customers is offer you $500 under your asking price and expect you to come back, at $250 under. Even in this scenario, if you mark the vehicle up only $3,500 and drop $250 off the price, then you still made $3,250 on that vehicle. Now, you may not make this much on all your sales, and on some sales, you may only make $1,000 profit or less in some cases, but you should be able to rent a location in a high traffic area for, $800 to $900, depending on your market rates. It could be more than that, or it could be substantially less. And you should be able to pay rent on most locations with one low markup sale a month. So let's say you sell 10 vehicles a month, and in this scenario, 9 of those vehicles would be pure profit, and just one of the vehicles paid the rent for that great retail location. So if you did not have a lot, then the profit on those 9 vehicles would have never happened. So I want you to really think about that. I mean, the money in this business is really, in my opinion, for retailers. As you will with any business, you're going to have to invest in yourself to make money. No one achieves the American dream of owning a business without hard work and taking a risk that will eventually reward you financially. And I'll say it time and time again, I do believe this is the world's greatest business, is having a dealer's license. The final type of license that I want to talk to you about is a motor vehicle broker license. So there are a handful of states that allow you to get a broker license that will allow you to sell vehicles to the general public without having a display lot. There are really only a handful of states that allow you to act as a broker and have a broker's license. A broker's license allows you to get a dealer's license without a lot, but you'll still be required to have some type of office space in like a commercial building to conduct motor vehicle transactions. This license allows you to sell vehicles directly to the general public and to other dealers as well, if that's something that you're interested in. And this is a great way to get your foot in the door with a dealer's license that will allow you to get into dealer auctions and sell vehicles to customers. I do want you to be aware, however, your profits will be limited with a broker license because you are more than likely not going to have multiple vehicles for sale at one time. You know, many brokers might only have one or two vehicles that are for sale. A disadvantage of this particular type of license is that you will have to store the vehicles that you have for sale somewhere, perhaps at your home, or you might even have to rent a storage facility to store your vehicles, which is going to incur additional cost for your business. But another negative on this is you're going to have to market those vehicles. I mean, you know, nobody's driving by a lot and seeing the vehicles. You've got to pay for some marketing, whether you're on Auto Trader, Craigslist, Marketplace, you have to market. So that will always incur a little bit of additional cost as well with the broker's license. But you will need to check your state laws on this because many states do not allow a broker's license. So as I stated before, I'm a big believer that the route to the highest profits in this industry are going to be with a retail license. So I hope you found this video educational, and I sure hope you'll consider subscribing to the channel. You can also go to my official website, dealerslicense.com. And if you have questions on how to obtain your license, click that Get License link there. And we have direct links to state dealer licensing agencies all over the country that have kind of a step-by-step process that'll show you how to get your dealer's license. So thanks very much for watching the video. I hope you found it very beneficial, and I do want to wish you the very best of luck with your new business.